Good space time, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast, your source for educational insights into the Web3 universe and your connection hub to discovering those that contribute to building the decentralized world. Today, we are joined by Dymion from ValidatorVN. We talk about space, monkeys, and pump and dump. We discuss one-line scripts, figuring it out from scratch, and exploring for new networks. Finally, we touch upon building organic communities, the pain of self-hosting, and classical music. If you enjoy our podcast, please share this episode onto your favorite social platform and help us spread Web3 values across the universe.
For myself, I didn't have many resources back then, and I just have some people like trying to figure out from scratch. I was a pioneer, and we just build community really organic over time, like 3 years already. And if people right now, they want to build a community, start from scratch, I think that's really hard. We try to look at the docs to see if anything is interesting, and we try to see, they're really solving a problem that have existed in the Web3 world. Empower my family, my friend, my brothers, and people around me.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast. Today, I have Dymion from ValidatorVN with me today. Dymion, hi. Welcome to the show, man.
Hello. Thank you for having me to the show today.
Excited, man. Tell me before. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but before we're gonna go into, I'm gonna ask you a traditional thing. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell me and the listeners what is it you do in Web3 specifically, and maybe if you want, how did you get to Web3, and everything else you want people to know about you, please, if that's okay.
Yeah. So basically, ValidatorVN is a entity that run validators on multiple chains since 2021. And we started with, actually Forex back in 2010. And we moved on to crypto space with Bitcoin and stuff in 2015. Yeah. So we have a pretty much, experience and knowledge in the Web3 space. And now we're just mainly focused on validating and supporting projects come to mainnet and validate on mainnet.
When you say we started with Forex in 2010, this is interesting. Tell me about it. What was the story there?
So basically, it was like back in the day, we don't have, many resources, but I come online and found out some people talk about Forex, and I was wondering what that is. And I burned a lot of account back then, trading currencies mainly. And yeah, so that's how it's worked.
How did you decide to move from that to crypto? You said 2015. How did it happen? What was the story?
Yeah, so it's basically, people around me talk about crypto. At the first time, I don't really understand what crypto is and, what they do. And it's like I don't have any trust or, visualization of the utility and everything. So I decided to first go on Twitter and create my account and start researching about Bitcoin and stuff back then. Yeah, so that's really how I started.
What made you? Because usually, like for me, I know that my story was similar, but I can tell you that researching about Bitcoin didn't help me. It scared me off, and I was like, okay, I don't understand anything. Bye, I'm going. So what attracted you, Aman? You started to research about Bitcoin, and you straight away like, understood, wow, this is going to be big, or it took something for you to actually, get into it?
So it's not like when you start, you immediately understand, oh, Bitcoin can do this, it can do that. No, for me, it's like a token that can be traded in futures and spot. It's like that. And over time, like 1 or 2 years, we started to see, okay, how can we utilize it and to send and swap, and what can we do with it? Like, it's a decentralized network. It's more like 1 or 2 years later, I just found their basic function of Bitcoin. Yeah.
And how did you come around validating after that? How did the story end up to this?
Oh, so we started with Aptos. They incentivize testnet user back in, if I remember it correctly, 2021, right? So I come on the docs and read and stuff, and I even told my brother to join in, like rent a server on, if I remember correctly, DigitalOcean, and rent multiple server and try to figure it out. And it was, I was really clueless about running a validator back then. It's like a new thing because, uh, yeah. So basically, I think Aptos, lead the trend of, running validator, and come to join testnets back then and incentivize user to do it. Yeah.
You say actually a very interesting sentence there. You say I was clueless about running validators back then, and I think a lot of people, sorry, who are part of the crypto industry. Some of them might be trading, some of them create NFTs, some of them do something else. A lot of them are interested in validation, but are very scared because they don't have a clue. Because you said, I was clueless, and now you're running a validator on quite a lot of networks, so how did you stop yourself from being afraid and starting to learn about? Was it just the incentivization that Aptos was doing that helped you, or was it some of an internal journey? Like what helped to overcome that fear?
Oh yeah. So I started a local community back then with just a few people, and I started a YouTube channel, like, you know, and we didn't have a lot of resource about running validator as we have right now, and going through docs with some people that doesn't have any background on running a validator, and they're not familiar with code and Linux and operating system also. And yeah, so it's basically, imagine a monkey try to to do go to the space.
Well, I mean, if we look at Soviet Union, that's what they were doing, right? Back in the 70s, putting monkeys and trying to send them to space, see what happens to them. Back in the 70s, the 60s, right? No, but jokes aside, but was it like today? If you were, if somebody come to you and say, Dymion, what would you suggest to me if I don't know anything about Linux, I don't know anything about coding. But I am curious, and I do know a little bit about crypto. How do I become a validator? What would you say to them? Of course, this is a very difficult question, but just like something that comes to your head. What would you suggest?
I suggest them to first familiarize themselves with the operating system. Like, we mostly run on Linux, and and you know have some basic course like how to type some simple commands and try to read the docs. That part is pretty hard to do and understand, but it takes times. Like for myself, I didn't have many resources back then, and I just have some people like trying to figure out from scratch, and we really have to spend like several months at least, yeah, back then. But now it should be shorter because we have a lot of resource, yeah. So and then we can join some testnets and validator and try. It's like we have one line of script everywhere right now.
I understand. I'm sorry. I'm going like a lot into that story. I'm curious because a lot of people find, at least for me, and I found that it is an interesting thing to understand how do people make the jump. A lot of people sometimes they look and they say, oh, but how do you make the jump? And what I'm trying to get here is to from people who I interview, what I see is that it sounds scary, but it's not. It's usually just a step of saying, okay, I'm gonna do something I haven't done before. And here's a question. Sorry, go on. You were going to comment. Sorry.
Yeah, so I understand like the the leap from trading crypto to validate is really random. Like I came across a post about validating on Aptos, a new protocol, and something like it's 100% new to me. And they said they have like testnet campaign or something, and they give the docs out with Linux and stuff for us to install. And it's like, yeah, so first time I have to find out to run a VPS server and stuff and try to understand the doc. It's like a very random, random thing that I joined the first time at a validator. Yeah.
Makes sense. I still think them today that some of the things we do as a validator are random. Even after like so many years of doing that, I sometimes think, what am I doing? What do I need to do? Like sometimes I'm like, well, what's happening? Why is it happening? Why is this not working? And why is it happening? I have a different question for you. You mentioned community. And you mentioned that you had a YouTube channel. Now I don't know exactly the chronological order of what came first, but I find interesting what you say, because I noticed a lot of validators that start as validators. They say my biggest problem is finding delegators, is building a community. And then there is your story who says the other way around. Okay, I have a community, now I have a validator. What should come first, the community or the validator? What comes first?
Uh, Actually, I have a few thousand of people follow me on Twitter before I validate.
Okay.
Yeah. So by then I was talking about crypto and stuff, Bitcoin. And then I learned how to become a validator, and then I create a YouTube channel to teach people in my local community how to run a node. Yeah. So basically that's it.
That makes perfect sense, to be honest, because did it help? You think that it helped you to attract delegations and have a core community on your validator?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Is that something you would say to, because most validators, after they start a validator, their first question is like, okay, but where do I take now delegations from? So would you say that this is kind of an advice to do to anybody who wants to be a validator? Try to build a community.
Oh, I think that's a really, really hard thing to do. Like, so I was some of people that try out validator on my country. Like I was a pioneer, and like we just build community really organic over time, like 3 years already. And if people right now they want to build their community, start from scratch, I think that's really hard. And I actually don't know how to give the advice for people to do that.
Okay, what about the other side of the story? What would you say not to do? Like if somebody's there is today trying to create communities, what not to do? What is a mistake when building a community?
The mistake, I think back then there was a lot of scams community, so basically the leader tried to lure people to buy a meme tokens and pump and dump, and yeah, it's like a scam. And so my community, introduce we don't encourage people to buy anything, just run the validator and share the knowledge together, and that's it.
What's the personal mission today of yourself? Like not necessarily validator VN, but Dymion. What's your goal personally? Do you want to, like, I don't know, build a bigger project or create the biggest community in Southeast Asia, or I don't know, what's your personal goal with all of this? Like, no, not the project, you personally.
Okay, so personally, I want to build a bigger team of validator, and we provide extra service. Like if we look at Helios Dev on Solana, they are providing massive scale of privacy to their chain, and yeah. So I do want to scale more service on our business, and maybe a small ventures as well on the Web3 community. Yeah.
Have you already when you mention ventures, I'm assuming you're talking about investing, right? Like, have you already done any investing as a project into other smaller projects?
Yeah, so back then we have C98 and Aura network that started from our country. So we have a small deposit there back then, like a few years ago. And yeah, so just some small.
The reason I'm asking, sorry again, the reason I'm asking, let me just expand a little bit the question. The reason I'm asking not is not so much, well, curiosity, of course, but I noticed that validators in general, that there is a lot of way to divide validators, but I think one of the ways is really investing into other projects and not investing. And I'm curious. I have to be honest. We as a validator, I personally, over many years, we haven't touched investing, but that is nothing to do with me personally, right? I'm talking about my validator venture. Now, I've noticed that a lot of validators, and it makes sense when I think about it. Of course, you come into testnets sometimes super early stages before the VCs even see that, right? So, like, the thing is, as a validator, and here I'm gonna come to a question. Sorry about the long intro. Like the thing is, as a validator, I believe you go through so many networks sometimes, and you don't do the due diligence that VCs are able to do. You don't have not the resource, not the time, not the team. How do you how should not maybe not maybe you could talk about yourself, or generally doesn't matter, but do you think validators, so it's two questions. Do you think validators should invest into the testnets they're running? And if yes, or what is the dangers here? What is the, what should they avoid? In
Yeah.
your opinion, of course.
So first of all, I don't have much experience in investing. Like I'm not a Web3 expert. I cannot evaluate whether a project is good or not. Really, because what I did back then was try to support a local in my country, a project in my country that could be launched, and they launched on Binance back then. Yeah, so it's like a personal kind of experience, not like a professional investment. So back then I had a lot of time because we validate on some chain back then, and we talk with the project, we know who they are, and yeah, it's like a small investment. So for now, as this ad is now, it's really hard because we have a lot of chains, to be honest, to validate. And if we have to make a decision to invest or something, like for me right now, I won't invest until we have like some professional go through everything, make it safe, and after that we should invest.
As kind of a continuation from that question, do you think that validators should focus apart from validation? I mean, because yeah. So this is kind of the question. So because I agree, investing can be very a dangerous game, especially for a person. You're a validator, and there is no such thing as professional validators, in my opinion. It only exists for 5 years. So all of us started from zero and became in quotations professional validators. But I agree that investing is a much different game, and so the question is, do you think the validators should try and focus more on their own thing rather than try to invest? And
So I think from the perspective of validator only, they should try not to get in jail or tombstone. That's the most important thing. And we can build and supply additional service, as multiple endpoints and snapshot and explorer. And two other things we can support, like we support that staker of the community, you know as we are building a dashboard for delegators, for them to be notified when a validator miss some certain of block, and will go to jail, and notify them to redelegate to secure the fund. And maybe a tool for developers to try to track on validator, because when they start their project, I think they haven't had the tool ready for them to monitor the validator. Yeah. So that's some way we can support the projects that we participate in.
I find it very interesting to see that different validators are more or less coming to the same tools, but still even in there you have different validators providing, like somebody does exporters and snapshots, or archive, or RPC is a very popular. What's your I think yours is RPC, right? You are I've seen you provide snapshots, exporters, RPCs, right? And do you have a focus particularly here, or you just provide whatever you can?
I focus on, I actually provide all the service on the change that I run on to support. And so we are building a dashboard for delegator, and it should come out like very soon. Like imagine like on the cosmos we have like 500,000 k 500,000 delegators, and validators they have slashed like 300 to 500 times from the expansion, and some millions-dollar got wasted, and we try to stop that. Yeah, so that's basically the idea.
That's a very good point. I've seen slashing boards from I think a couple of times, but it'll be yes KJ nodes, yeah. But I and we are I told you before we started recording that we are also building a tool, and part of the tool is a different type of staking calculator, which includes slashing events, because today most calculators they don't include nothing. They just like take API price of the token, multiply, and that's it. And so I'm curious why did you decide to dig that slashing hole? Why not something else? Why slashing? Why was it interesting to you?
I think it's I haven't seen a open source or any validator, or at least publicly, try to provide a service. Like I have seen like 400,000 people on Cosmos, and other chains. We have like 200,000 and 300,000 delegator got slashed. Yeah, so
I understand.
why haven't anyone built that simple tool to protect their funds? Even like from the foundation themselves, they got slashed because they stick to the chosen validator, and they got slashed. And I don't really want to see that, to be honest.
But can a validator? I totally understand, but devil's advocate question here. Do you think a validator can be 100% slash protected, like 1,000,000% guarantee? I will, because it's hard, right? I mean, it's equipment, right? So sooner or later, anybody can get slashed, right? Doesn't matter which is validator, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so that we have to try to protect delegator,
Of course.
because no matter who you are, you will get slashed someday.
Of course, of course, of course. And actually, just to prove your words, I would like to, by personal experience to prove your words. We have been running validators, and yeah, we run self-hosted validators, which makes it more difficult. But for a long time, and actually 2 days ago, we have been slashed before, but jail time. This was one of the first in like 2-3 years we experienced, and the reason what was led to that was as a simple human mistake. We just forgot to track something, and what I'm trying to say here, it doesn't matter who you are, you human mistakes happen. It doesn't matter how amazing your system is, you are correct. Like, I agree with you. So delegators must be protected, because everybody will make a mistake. It doesn't matter what's your name, it will happen. So yeah, absolutely agreed, 100%.
Yeah. So speaking of self-hosting, we have some local servers. Yeah.
Please tell me about what you can talk about your setup. I don't know if you want to talk about it, if it's to security, privacy. So what you can share, if you want to share anything at all.
I think we can talk quickly about it. Like, I try to set up local servers, and we have some problem with it. Like, first is deep sea cable is broken every year in my country, so we have internet connection problem already. Like, it's out of control, and sometimes we have electricity cut. Like, we have backup, but it's sometimes that very annoying by that. And yeah, and the download and upload speed with international cable is not that good as try to run a server. Yeah, so we have a lot of problem.
Well, have you? I mean, I can totally relate to that because the last year I spent doing that, changing from cloud to not just cloud but bare metal, cloud bare metal to self-hosted bare metal, and it's been a very, very expensive and a very difficult journey because I don't know about you, but this is actually this is a question I have to you here. One interesting problem we tackled after changing to self-hosting was a ping issue. And the issue is very simple. Because we now self-host in a decentralized location, we are very far away from Hetzner and from AWS. So we have found solutions. We are trying to implement them, but well, what we're trying to do, and this is a question to you, how did you rework it? What we've been trying to do is we've been trying to basically create virtual networks on top of our physical networks and put those virtual networks working with another traffic server in the cloud, which is virtually connected. It's a huge stupid workaround. Now, how do you? I don't know. How does it work for you? Have you been having similar kind of issues, or what's apart from the internet and the electricity issues? Of course, what has been your journey like in that?
Yeah, so I still struggle with it until today. Like, first of all, we don't have many peers in Southeast Asia. We are centralized on Europe, and we have peering problem, we have ping problem, we have internet connection problem. With it are out of control. So I feel you, man.
It's no, I totally, it's interesting. I don't want to steal the show here, but we a few months ago we were planning to do this frequently, and a few months ago we started an initiative. We called it BVC, Bare Metal Validator Coven, and we it was crazy. We did one call. The idea was to gather self-hosted and bare metal validators, and the first space we did, we had 150 200 people overall tune in, which was crazy. We didn't expect that. And what we realized is, out there in the wild, there are a lot of validators who either want to go self-hosted or experimenting with self-hosted, or trying to touch self-hosted, but everybody has the same problems and nobody knows what the fuck to do with it. And yeah, I don't know, this is scary. I don't know. So we're trying to kind of go to do that, but yeah, hopefully. What do you think? Do you think that validators more, do you think more people will become self-hosted validators, or do you think the problems we talk about now push people away?
Yeah, it's really hard. Like, in the spectrum of professional validator, like we are talking about big names, they also run on server providers, and most of them, I believe. So yeah, so self-hosting is really, really difficult, and we cannot really sleep well.
No.
No.
We don't sleep well. That's true. I totally agree. No, it's crazy. It's crazy how much stress, so to speak, and how many, no, not so much stress, but there are so many little points to try and take care about in alerting and monitoring too. Yeah. And you are absolutely right. Just to confirm, for you, for the listeners, we have been interviewing, people who work in Web3 and validators specifically for the last 4.5 years, and I think that I can say with confidence that maximum people who self-host is 4 to 5%, and even out of these 5%, I think that a lot of people, at least 60 to 70%, they don't self-host outside of a data center. They have their own equipment, which they rent a space in a data center, and then they put it there. So maybe 2.5%, maybe 2% out of the total number really self-host in their own locations. And it's even less, maybe. I would say it's even less, but yeah, it's crazy. Do you think that's an issue? Do you think that can become an issue in the future in terms of like stake, geographic centralization and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's like is if we have some kinds of encouragement, because the project themselves, they want to decentralize validator to multiple servers, multiple location. If they try to enforce some kind of punishment or encouragement for validator to move away from centralized servers, and I think that could maybe encourage people to self-host. But again, that is really a pain to self-host.
Yeah, completely. I noticed, going from your website and looking at your venture as a validator, you advertise yourself as a Tendermint and Cosmos specific validator, but you did mention Solana just before, one of the projects there. So a few questions really. So first of all, do you only? So this is the first question. Sorry. Do you only concentrate on Cosmos and Tendermint, or you're going like around?
So we mostly like 95%. Yeah, we validate
Why?
on Cosmos. Yeah. So
Why?
basically, we got familiarized with it first, and then we try to master it. Try to understand what Tendermint and Cosmos educates talk, and try to perfect our system. So right now we can see other consensus make like, and with LLM models, they're trying to build a completely new consensus make. Yeah, so I do also explore more outside of Cosmos ecosystem.
How do you select a chain? How does the process look for you?
Oh yes.
How do you decide whether you're going to do it or not?
The first thing is I look for chains that select validators, not like everyone can run and join, because like we cannot differentiate we and them. Like at least give us some sort of selection, and and we try to look at the docs to see if anything is interesting, and we try to see, oh, they're really solving a problem that have existed in the Web3 world. Like some change, they try to integrate Bitcoin ecosystem on their Cosmos chain, and some chain they try to solve this problem on it that have been like many years haven't solved. Yeah, so I try to find that some innovative projects. That's mostly how we try to find and participate.
Do you go from testnets to mainnets mainly, or do you go, or it doesn't matter if you find a project, if it's mainnet, testnet, you go and validate it? Or I guess the reason I'm asking is I noticed there is like two primary strategies mostly for validators. There is a type of validators who just it doesn't matter for them, testnet, mainnet, they come in, if they see a network they like, they start to validate. And then there is the strategy of mainly trying to go first through the testnet levels, trying to attract the the attention to yourself as a validator, to prove yourself as a validator, and then kind of waiting until the network grows into mainnet? What's your strategy, or it's none of these maybe?
Yeah, so our strategy is try to join the testnet as soon as possible and try to support them from like the Discord have 1,000 member, like support them until mainnet and beyond mainnet. Yeah, that's our strategy. Like we don't try to, join Cosmos after it has been like for 4, 5, or 6 years from now. Yeah, so that's basically our strategy.
I also noticed, that you guys say on in your socials that you're kind of, you do, what's the right word here? You do some community management, networking. You are active in governance and forums. This is another question. In your opinion, does a validator have to be public in order to be successful, or can a validator remain private if they choose to and still be successful?
Oh, that's a really hard question because right now at the state right now, like every validators they have to public their information, like to guarantee something, like okay, I won't get slash, and if I get slash I will refund and everything. So they can attract delegators and you know try to build a profile that projects then trust them, delegate to them to secure the network. So private validator I haven't seen, or yeah, so I haven't seen one that's really successful, but I don't know really who they are or their website or related information.
I think what about not if it's not private, let's say not public. Do you think validators also must be public, or they can also be like not public and
Yeah,
successful?
they can be anonymous, really, but yeah, they can hide everything, every information, but not their P2P
Of course, of
only.
course.
So, yeah.
Do you have, for example, I don't know what's your biggest network right now? What's your largest network today for you? The one that brings you the most financial stability. I mean, for Validator VN today, is it Aptos or?
Is to date is sent to CDK. Yeah.
So for example, does Sentu have any in the top validator list on Sentu? Are there any validators who are not participating in the forum, who don't talk in the chats, who?
Yeah. They we do have like 10 or 20
Wow, wow,
anonymous validator.
wow, that's a lot. It's a big number. What's your opinion? Why are they successful in comparison? Because the reason I'm asking is very simple. It's not about who is private, who is not. The reason here is more from the perspective of, to be public, a public persona takes effort, it takes energy. And I know personally, that for us to either do podcasts or to then do follow-up work on those podcasts or YouTube or forums, governance, and so on, it's energy. It's human resource, it's time, it's money, it's energy. And then you say, well, we have 10, 20 validators on a network which are anonymous, and so how do they achieve it, in your opinion? What is the secret? Like, how do you keep the balance? Maybe not how they achieve it, of course, it's a question to them, but how does one, in your opinion, keep the balance between participating in the life of a network and not maybe revealing all the information about yourself, and being this balance between public and non-public? Do you think it exists?
Oh, I think is like almost doesn't exist. because like like when we try to apply for foundation dedication program, we have to specify ourselves, our information, what we do, like our SLA and everything. Like we can provide like maybe company license at a staking provider, as some sort of assessment. So what? So the thing at Accenture, I don't really know how we yeah.
It's a fair answer. It's a fair answer because I also don't know the answer to that question, and I have been asking people, but it's interesting that some people just say, well, provide many tools, but then it's interesting because it's a very yeah, yeah. I also don't know the answer. That's the. Let me ask you one last question before we're gonna jump into the blitz and kind of wrap this up. The question is quite simple. I mean, you had quite a journey, even though it's been like 3-4 years, 3.5 years. The journey has been interesting, is from what I hear. And what has been your most challenging and most successful part? I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. But like, or maybe the most exciting. You don't have to be, like, well, what's for you been the most easy out of those 3 years? And what's for you been the most difficult in those 3 years, personally for you?
Yeah. So I think the most difficult thing was the Nevada Study expedition. I believe that you guys have joined also. Yeah, so basically we have sleepless nights. In Asia it's like 2 a.m., you know, chain hard and everything and building the apps and stuff. It's like 2 continuous months with sleepless nights and everything. But I I believe that was a wonderful experience. No matter what the outcome or everything everybody say about it, we will never have it like for the second time in any other chain.
What's most easy part have been of this journey?
Easy part, easy
Which one? What's easy? Yeah.
is the Aptos.
Okay.
Aptos part is like a newcomer that don't know anything, like a small incentivization for us what really rewarding back then, because like we expect at that time we didn't expect anything, to be honest. It's like trying to explore a new thing.
Um, I'm going to jump into the blitz. It's going to be 3 questions, which are going to be not about crypto. So just to take us out of this conversation and kind of finish it up. So the questions are strange, but here they are. So first question, please give me or one movie or one book or one song that have a positive influence on you, that you like, that you enjoy.
Oh, that's
Or.
oh yeah. So let's do music because I love classical music and I
Nice.
listen to them every day. So I can recommend people try out Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto
Wow.
number one.
Wow. Wow. That's a very unexpected answer because no, because like I don't think anyone had a classical music recommendation so far. That is the first one. Well done. Cool. I love it. I love it. Okay, second one. And by the way, once again, the list for the listeners, everything me and Dymion mentioned, so all the projects, all the recommendations, books, people, whatever, please, it is all linked to the show notes links, so you can just check out those links and have a look what we are talking about. So, second question, give me one motivational thing that keeps you waking up every day and keep on building a validator, keep on building your community, listen to classical music and being yourself, something motivational, one thing
Oh, motivational
for you, it's motivational for you.
for me is like to empower my family, my friend, my brothers, and people around me. That's
It's a
the number
beautiful
one.
answer. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful answer. Thank you. Okay, that is a very good answer. And number 3, last question. This one is a weird one. So, dead or alive, real or made up? It could be, I don't know, somebody you know from your family. It could be a writer. It could be a cartoon character, a movie character. It could be your friend. It doesn't matter. Somebody, a persona who makes you feel, like better when you think about them, when you're stuck in life and you think about that persona or that personage, and you're like, okay, that helps me and I can move on with whatever I'm stuck in.
Oh, that's a real tough question. uh, I think like every day I wake up, I think about like, oh, what we can do to support our family, my family, specifically. So I think about, okay, so we have to push. We cannot stop. And, think about my dad, my mom for their hard work for like many years taking care of me. Now I have to work to push, take care of them back. Yeah, I think that's them.
Thank you, Dymion. Those are very beautiful answers in my opinion, so thank you for them. Dymion, I want to thank you very much for finding the time to join me to answer these questions, to not be annoyed at the strange questions too, and to have a laugh. And for everybody else, for the listeners who tuned in, I would like to say goodbye for you, Dymion. Please don't hang up just yet. This is just a goodbye for the listeners. Everybody else, thank you for listening to us and see you next week. Thanks, Dymion.
Thank you, guys.
This content was created by the Citizen Web3 Validator. If you enjoyed it, please support us by delegating on citizenweb3.com/staking and help us create more educational content.